Hey, everybody. Today we're going to talk about college football. Week 2 of the college football season is about to, or I should say, has come to a close with major upsets with Florida's loss, Michigan's loss,
Mhm.
loss of innocence, all of that stuff. So we're going to have a lot to talk about. Let's do our second recap of the season. This is week 2 of the college football. This is Productive Conversations week 2. Excuse me. This is our week two recap of the college football season here on Productive Conversations. My name is Matt Brown, and I'm the host of the Productive Conversations podcast. And the world is a better place because you're here to join us. And I'm so excited to talk week 2 of college football with Ryan. What's up, Ryan?
Not much. It was a interesting week. A good week too, but a pretty normal week, right? Nothing crazy.
Well, we have a lot to get down with, Ryan. We have a lot to talk about. So let's get into it. And just a reminder, just want to remind you to like and subscribe to the Productive Conversations podcast on all podcasts and platforms and YouTube. And don't forget to check out exclusive content regarding the show across all social media platforms. We're on Instagram at Productive Conversations Podcast, X at Pod, TikTok at Pod, and Facebook at Productive Conversations. And don't you forget to check out our presenting sponsor, Magic Mind, the world's first productivity shop. While I have a lot going on in my life between work, more work, friends, family, and all of that, I need something to give me a little boost, something to clear my head, something to make me feel refreshed and restarted. And that's where Magic Mind comes in. Go through a signature nootropics, vitamins, matcha, and all of that dandy stuff in the health and wellness field. If you take this green tea shot, you'll feel a lot better about yourself. Your mind will be cleared. You'll be more focused at the task at hand. And I promise you, you will not regret what you are consuming. And it's all over the place at various grocery stores across the country and vitamin shops.
hmm
But go to magicmind.com/PCJune for 40% of your first subscription and 20% of your first one-time purchase. Better than those shops that I mentioned.
Absolutely.
Go to magicmind.com/PCJune for 48% of your first subscription or 20% of your first one-time purchase. All right, week 2 of the college football season has come and gone. Brian,
hmm
two major upsets that we have to talk about.
Yep.
First, why don't we get into Oklahoma taking down Michigan? The 18th ranked Oklahoma took down 15th ranked Michigan by a score 24-13. And despite only one major play from Michigan, a 75-yard run by Justin Haynes, the offense was stiffed. They could not gain any yardage against this Oklahoma defense.
Mm.
After a stellar debut for Bryce Underwood in week 1, he straight up regressed, only going 9 for 20 for 142 yards. And we got this guy, John Mater from Oklahoma, throwing over 270 yards and rush for 2 touchdowns. The Michigan's defense didn't do much. Had a hard time. Did not create a lot of pressure for Mater. And the offensive line and quarterback were very, very low. A significant win for Oklahoma. And now we have to wonder if Michigan is consistent on offense and defense after
Mm.
2 different weeks, clearly. Talk to
Very
me.
different weeks.
What happened here, Ryan? Michigan is a very weird school to talk about in the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, I will say I think a lot is being made of obviously a bad game out of Bryce Underwood, but it was his second game. All right, I mean he's a freshman. He's leading one of the most storied Big Ten schools as a freshman. Um, to me, that's obviously a pressure situation. Which if you're going to be leading a school like Michigan, you have to be able to compete under pressure situations. But Oklahoma, while they were definitely not favored, it was a 15 rank and an 18 rank. They're both top 20 teams. I was low on Oklahoma, as I said in the preview. I think I might have been wrong to be as low as I was on Oklahoma.
Mhm.
They had played a really good defensive game, and then John Mateer was Washington State quarterback the last however many years, and now he's moved on to the bigger stage in Oklahoma. Got a pretty good win. against a ranked team that's going to help in an SEC, which has been kind of quiet this year. Even in wins, we'll talk about them. But yeah, they didn't have the offense to overcome what is Oklahoma's specialty, and that is like a buzzsaw of a defense. Like they
Mhm.
literally they purposefully as well. They went after the quarterback on defense. They would have the safeties come in. They had the linebackers constantly trying to get through the line. The obviously the D line was working triple time to collapse the O line so they could get a sack so they could put pressure on them. Like that was clearly the game plan was we've got a rookie quarterback, rookie second game. That's how we're going to beat this team. He's got a high production when he's on. We have to make sure he never gets turned on, and I think they succeeded. The coach also had a lot of weird calls. Michigan
Mhm.
didn't let Underwood like air it out, even though we know he's got a decent enough arm to do so. I don't know if they were worried. Like it feels like if they had maybe a bit more confidence in him, and again, it's his second game, they might have let him like go for broke on a couple of deep throws. And honestly, the commitment to putting pressure on the quarterback in real time might have left openings that they could have exploited if they were willing to air it out more than they did. But they played it pretty conservative and pretty safe, and that was not the way that was not going to work with this defense in Oklahoma.
No, it didn't. That was not the case here. I definitely saw just a Michigan team with so much headlines going through that program
Mm,
from previous generations to previous regimes to new regimes to a team that just was outplayed mostly too. And as I
yeah,
said, it's both a problem on both sides of the football, which has to be taken accounted for.
100%. And I think it will be. Again, I don't. I think this team will be better than last year's team, and last year's team is mid, so that's not necessarily hard to do. But I do think that this is definitely the team, quote unquote. Like
Hmm.
he's their guy. They have their quarterback. They need to work with him some more. They need to trust him some more. Um, but I think they'll have plenty of time to make up for this loss to the point where, this is a ranked loss against an SEC team, one that's probably going to be toward the top of that particular conference at the end of the season, perhaps. Again, I don't want to get too confident, but just watching them play the 2 weeks versus some of their contemporaries over there in SEC land, I think that they can hang with most, if not all of them. So we'll see. But I think that this won't be a huge problem for Michigan, but it definitely was a regression for their quarterback, as you say. And when you're a freshman quarterback, you don't want to have too many regressions because that's how you lose your starting spot and that's how you lose your confidence and all that stuff. And he's far too talented to be, mixed up in all that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I'm sure they definitely need a home crowd next week to play against Central Michigan. Got to take advantage of that. Just beat them down and just shake off this bad loss for the
Yep.
Wolverines. All right, Ryan. And the other upset, maybe
Hmm.
even the upset of the weekend, was the University of Southern Florida making a statement, a school we talked about in 2 shows in a row that may or may not, or I should say, maybe making some big headlines this season. Well, they made a big statement. The University of Southern Florida stunned number 13th ranked Florida, the University of Florida, by a score of 18-16 with the last second 20-yard field goal by Nico Grammatica, straight up knocking out Florida from the rankings.
Hmm.
And though watching the game, I feel a lot of it was Florida beating themselves, committing 11 penalties for 103 yards. And then the second day, or I should say, the second incident in 3 days of a football player on a national spotlight spitting on another football player. Talking
Yeah.
about this, we got Jalen Carter from the Eagles. This time it was defensive lineman Brendan Bett from um Florida in the final
Hmm.
drive, gave him those yards, got them the chip shot field goal. And what are you going to do there? Emotional, great win for UCF, or USF,
USF. Yep.
and it's their first ever win against Florida.
Hmm.
And the Bulls are the third unranked team since 2000 to start 2-0 with back-to-back upsets over a ranked team.
Hmm.
Dude, did you by any chance see the Netflix stock on any given Saturday
I
with this
I
fall
thought
draft?
about it and I didn't watch it. I should have watched it, but I didn't.
I mean, it's okay. I think it's the weakest of all Netflix's sports drama series
Hmm.
that I've seen. I got through like the first four, and then I wasn't feeling it. But they talked about Billy Napier
He's
and
out.
his job was on the hot seat last
He's
season.
gone. Yeah, he's gone.
And these culture problems there seems to be, and an ugly loss in your home stadium in the swamp that does not help the cause. And as I mentioned, straight up out of the rankings from this loss.
Yeah.
And I think it was the committee punishing this school again for the bad penalties, the unsportsmanlike
Hmm.
conduct. And they say a team that commits a lot of penalties shows they're not well coached. And this
Hmm.
could be a major tipping point. I'm sure if it was later in the season, you might see him out the door. Maybe it's because it's so early. Maybe they can salvage what's left. But
Yeah, yeah,
all I can
yeah.
say is it seems now that really Napier
It's,
has been having a tough time with this program for years now. And last night was a major instance with that.
yeah, this is his last year as the head coach of this team, and I don't even know he makes it the full season, but this is his last season as the Florida coach. Listen, I was high on USF. I literally brought it up first week. I'm bringing them up this week, and I'm gonna keep bringing them up.
Yeah.
I
Yes, you
think they're a
will.
better team than people are giving them credit for. I think with Boise, it was, oh well, they lost. You know, Boise was ranked 25, but they really shouldn't have been. They lost their only good player. I think with Florida, it's, well, Florida has got a crap coach who they've always had. And this is what happens when they play. They start to fall apart. And that's fine. I think if I'm USF, I want that. I want people to keep saying that nonsense because honestly, they're one more game away from being in a real good spot, which is of course against their toughest challenge, Miami, at Hard Rock next week. And I'll be honest with you, if Miami doesn't blow these guys out of the water, and I don't think they will, by the way. But if Miami doesn't blow these guys out of the water, I think there's a world where these guys are talking about playoffs regardless. Because they're not going to lose to most of the other teams in their conference. The American Conference is just not strong enough. They've only got one peer group, two if you count Memphis, and I don't know that we should, but Memphis and Tulane, that's it.
Mhm.
So they're probably the champions, the American Conference champions anyway, which could give them the group of five shot. But well, Byron Brown, senior quarterback, I thought he looked as good, if not better, than a lot of the Power Four college quarterbacks this week. I think he looked as good as a lot of the ones who looked good last week too. Um, yeah, I think that they're just not a brand people know. And so they're going to be discounted. And in college football, that's horrible. It's hard because the committee does play such a big role in your success. And I do think they'll continue to be discounted. But I mean, look out. If they keep it within a touchdown of Miami, that will be, truthfully, I think, unless it's like 7-0, which is a different thing. But if they keep it within a touchdown of Miami, let alone less than three, they're gonna have a great season.
Yeah. Dude, you're totally right. You're totally right. And you also, for we talked about Arch Manning, right,
Hmm.
being a sought after quarterback. DJ Lagway is too, who I
Hmm.
said on this show 2 weeks ago. A Heisman candidate, definitely played a horrible game to
Oh,
help
so bad,
fall
so bad.
down on that. And simply if Arch Manning didn't have the lame last name Manning, I think more of the national spotlight could go on Lagway now, which again only 2 weeks, but bad stuff
You
there.
mean the scorn, the national scorn? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, listen, my Heisman pick is not necessarily doing all that well either. But
Yeah, we'll get into
we'll
that
get into
next.
that. But yeah, I think you're right, Matt.
Well, that's how that it'd be like that sometimes. But Ryan, why don't we
That's right.
talk about Clemson
Yeah.
taking on is it Troy University or University of Troy? But
I
anyways, it's
think it's
Troy.
Troy University, but Troy, yeah, just call it Troy.
But yeah, Ryan, starting off at one point they were up 16 to nothing against Clemson.
Yeah.
Scored 27 points after the fact, but after falling to LSU 2 weeks ago and then almost blowing it against Troy. Is Clemson in trouble? You and I talked offline about it, but we'd love to hear your thoughts after the fact here.
Yeah, Clemson is absolutely in trouble. And again, I said that they were a contender to be in the national championship, and that's just not true. They looked better in their LSU game than
Mhm.
they did in this Troy game. So you want to talk about regression? I understand that that was a loss and that the Troy game was a win, but it was a loss of set by 7 to a LSU team that's ranked 3, who also struggled this week. But again, LSU team, really solid team, one of the best in the SEC, which makes it one of the best in the country. And then you've got Troy, which basically almost got it to the same 7 point spread, but in reverse. And like that can't happen if you that's the wrong direction. And then you got Georgia Tech known for the upsets coming up on the schedule, right? You've already fallen from like 5th to 8th. Now you're going to be down what 12th, 13th, whatever you're going to be as Clemson.
Mhm.
And Georgia like that's Georgia Tech's bread and butter. And if the Georgia Tech beats them, even if it's a squeaky beat, right? Like just by a little bit, double overtime talking, that's going to knock them out of all these conversations. I would be very worried if I was Clemson. They have to play flawlessly after these first 2 games because yes, they lost a good game to LSU, but they still lost it. And then as soon as they got a less quality opponent, they won, but they didn't win a good game. And that's like the worst combination is losing the good games and then winning the bad games. You want to have some good wins, right? You don't want any bad losses. So I guess it's better than if they had actually lost to Troy. But they do need to have some like the bad games need to be easy wins and they need to start cranking out some good wins. And I don't know. I mean, Miami.
Yeah,
Miami is looking more and more like the prohibitive favorite. We'll see if the Bulls can do anything to stop them. But and again, Florida State's pretty good. There's some other people. Yeah, the ACC is not as weak as as people would think. They've got some talent still.
definitely. I agree
Um,
with you.
yeah,
And they still got plenty left. And as you know of the system, Ryan, one loss, especially the Power Four, it can cost a season. It will
hmm
change a lot of things. You only have really one loss to play around with.
yeah.
And like you, that's it,
Unless you play down south, you got one loss.
yeah. So
Realistically, and I do believe that's nonsense. I think, and granted, this is still ACC. I think the ACC, the Big Ten, and the SEC are closer this year than in years prior. I
yeah.
think Clemson's abysmal performance is making that look less true, frankly, and that's rather upsetting. But I do think it's crazy the idea that a 2-loss SEC team is probably still favored over a 2-loss ACC or Big Ten team. But that is just how it is. That is true. So like whether we like it or we don't like it, that's how the commissioners pick pretty much every time. So yeah, they really can't lose again. And again, you look at their schedule, you're like, they have a pretty, it's not a hard schedule per se, but Syracuse, Georgia Tech, SMU, Duke, Florida
Hey,
State,
can I point out one
Louisville. Yeah.
thing? Syracuse wins this week,
Yeah.
but then they did sprints after the game. Literally, the scene from Miracle. I didn't
I mean,
see any more information about that. I didn't reach out to. I didn't go see the coach's comments if he made them, but that was a funny viral moment. Might
yeah,
sneak that in with the tweet cap that will be
absolutely.
available on
Yeah.
Tuesday.
It's Tuesday's recap. But anyway, point being, Clemson has got some teams they've got to beat, and I think they've probably got a loss in there somewhere. And if that loss is like Florida State or I don't know, Duke, then that's pretty much going to be the end of their run.
Mm-hmm. Good. Totally. I hear that loud and clear. And the other thing I wanted to mention and talk to you quickly, Ryan, with the Iowa State Bear also cutting it close.
Yeah.
Thanks to a Kyle Conradi late 54-yard field goal. They sneak past Iowa in a really strange game. Iowa State had that close call with Kansas State in week 0 or Kent
Hmm.
State in week 0. Last week weird situation. Now this, what's going on with Iowa State, Ryan? You think they're phony in a way,
I don't know.
despite being 3-0?
I think they're the luckiest team in the Big Four, the Power Four rather. Yeah, like they haven't played that well, but they haven't lost yet, and their losses haven't been against completely or their wins haven't been completely crappy teams, right? We talked Kansas, we talked Iowa, obviously the Cy-Hawk Bowl. That's what they call that little game of theirs,
Mhm.
Iowa State versus Iowa, which is a big deal. I watched it last year, did not watch it this year, at least not all of it. But anyway, it's like yeah, when you think about it, they're not playing that well, but they're undefeated. Um, and they're in a wide open, what's that called? They're in a wide open conference at the moment in terms of the Big 12 doesn't really have a clear front runner. So I don't know. I think they're lucky. Now, I don't know that lucky is enough to carry them forward, obviously,
Mhm.
but it could be, right? I mean, we talked when I don't know if we're gonna talk about ASU or not. They got upset by Mississippi State. Um,
Didn't really have much, but what do you have there with comments there you could mention that?
that was the entirety of the
Yeah.
comments. ASU should have beat Mississippi State, and they factually did not.
Hmm.
And so, that was one of the top teams. They lost. I don't know. To me, it feels like yeah, there's really a lot of open air at the top of the Big 12, and being undefeated is probably the quickest way to keep that.
Hmm. That's how. That's what
Lucky or
it's like,
otherwise.
Ryan. That is what it's like. Um, we had a lot of blowouts this week
Yeah,
from these bigger schools,
a
like
ton.
real big nasty ones. Ohio State being Grambling State, 70-0. Like,
That
how do
was
you just like
did
in all seriousness? How do you even look at yourself, both sides? Like we're just pounding on this team that has no chance, and then
did you hear the
this
coach
one
of
too.
Grambling
Was that
before
the
the
one
game?
where it was?
I got a great band. They got a great band. We're gonna see he's like, yeah, we're excited for this weekend. I've got a great band. They've got a great band. We're gonna we're gonna see two great bands. And then he goes, no, but in all seriousness, we understand what's happening.
Hey, at
I
least
was like,
they're
that's so
aware.
funny.
And who was that game? The halftime show wasn't somebody. Somebody was just very vulgar. There was like fucking suck or something. I can't remember.
I don't remember that. No.
Oh,
I
I'll
believe
try
you.
to
I just don't
find that,
remember
man.
it. Yeah.
We had Oregon with a 69-3 rout. I think that's the game. The Oklahoma State. If you want to just quickly look up Oklahoma State halftime report
Yeah, I could
or
look that
talk
up.
against Oregon. Florida State 77-3 against East Texas A&M, not Texas A&M, East Texas A&M.
I hated that, by the way. When I saw East Texas A&M, I'm like, it's just I know that I was looking something up, but we should talk a little bit about some of this. Like, yeah, Florida State beat the brakes off of East Texas A&M. Now, Florida State obviously beat Alabama literally last week. They're a
Yeah,
real team with real talent. But we saw with Florida, we saw with Florida this week, where they beat up on that team from Long Island, and
yeah,
then they showed
LIU.
up with USF, who should not beat Florida, and they lost. And
Hmm.
yes, obviously they beat themselves, but USF also took advantage of those mistakes and played a great game. And it's like, Georgia versus Austin, PA, or whatever. I don't even know how to say that. I've never heard of that school. 28-6. That's not really an impressive win. If you're playing
No,
Austin, PA, you better have that 70-0 like Ohio State had. You know what I
honestly,
mean?
with Penn State, you could say too. They only won 34-0 against Florida International.
Yeah, right. That's what I mean. I think it's a little bit less problematic for them.
Egregious.
Personally, because they did factually keep them from scoring. But I don't even know where Austin, PA is. But they scored six
Mhm.
points on Georgia.
That's an accomplishment.
That's a huge accomplishment. You know what I mean? And like Utah, even not to be mean to Utah, they did get 63 points. But who
Mhm.
is Cal Poly getting 9 points on a Big 12 team, a contender for the champions of the Big 12? Like that's
They
to
shouldn't.
me, that's crazy. Like Miami's the only guy. They got one kick. You can excuse one kick. Same with Auburn. And granted, Ball State is a real team. It's just a really, really low team. But it's like you can excuse one kick, right? Okay, they got a long field goal they weren't expecting. But man, if you're gonna play these teams no one's ever heard of, man, then you have got to just literally beat the snot out of them. And they shouldn't mean anything. If any of those teams go up in the rankings, realistically, except for, I mean, Ohio can't go up. But like if any of those teams go up in the rankings after their, wins against nobody this week, I'd be shocked because none of those were quality wins. I guess Alabama needed it after losing.
Hmm.
Like they factually needed to win. They gotta win. But like other than that, these people who beat up on nobody, like, dude, come on. What are we doing? That's not shouldn't be worth anything, in my opinion.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir. And then Arch Manning bounced back with 4 touchdowns against San Jose State.
Yes.
Still waiting for his big test. Again, we already know he failed the first one with Ohio State defense. We'll see what they have next coming up for them. And then the last
Yeah,
thing before we talk about the top 25, Ryan, people really like Purdue, what they've
they
done.
do really like Purdue.
Um, I went to check them out, saw their highlights after the fact. But Purdue began the season 2-0 under new coach Barry Odom this is the first Purdue coach to do so since 1916,
Hmm.
just about 110 years
1916.
ago.
Yeah.
But this game against Southern Illinois, where they won 34-17, we have Devin Makobi with 126 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Ryan Brown was thrown in for a touchdown. Um, the defense is very tight over there, but a lot of people optimistic and showing some early progress because of the way they're scoring the football, the way they're scoring with the football, and their defense holding up. That Purdue might also be a school to look out for with these group of five schools.
Well, Purdue is, I believe they're in what's it called, aren't
They're
they?
the Big Ten,
Yeah,
aren't
so
they?
but you see, they're in like the Power Four,
Yeah. We
technically.
mostly think of them as a basketball school, but
You are, yeah. They're not usually the Boilermakers are not usually gridiron giants, but this is a weird season for the Big Ten. Illinois is just slowly working its way up, right? Purdue's got a lot of people talking. They got some big
mhm.
games later
Yeah.
on. I mean, their
Just
games
quickly
so
interrupt.
far.
They
Yep,
have
go ahead.
USC next week with a big
Hmm.
conference game. The week after that, Notre
Notre
Dame,
Dame.
Illinois from there, who a lot of people are impressed by as well. So those
I
are the
like
next
Illinois,
three.
yeah. No, yeah, that's what I mean. It's like neither of these two games, Southern Illinois or Ball State, neither one of those are particularly interesting in terms of matchups. But it's a way to build momentum heading into USC. And USC's that's a real team. They're not ranked, but they're rivals, right? So you do have to beat them. And you get 3-0 going into Notre Dame.
Hmm.
That's not a bad start at all. I don't know enough about any of the individual players on Purdue because no one's ever had to pay attention to them before. But as a team, you can see that they're definitely, well, one, they're winning, which is nice for them, and then two, they seem to be like winning decently. Like they seem to be scoring a
Yeah.
lot. They seem to be keeping the other team to a low number. Against Southern Illinois 17. Maybe that was too high for Southern Illinois, who knows? But Ball State did not score. Like so you're seeing, a lot of points, 30 plus, and you're seeing, less than, less than 14 points on the other side. That's a decent way to get your name out there and to build a profile for, later in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we now talk about the updated rankings? This is your week 3 AP poll. We'll
I
pull
have
that
not
up.
even looked at it yet. So
Don't
I'm gonna be
worry.
looking at it for the first time right now.
Oh, awesome. Then I'll lead you to what we're about to speak on. So Ryan, Ohio
Hmm.
State stays at number 1.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. But here we go, really quick. The top 3 remain the same. Ohio
Hmm.
State, Penn State, and LSU, no movement. Oregon goes from 6 to number 4, swapping
Hmm.
places with Georgia, following their dominant win over Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Illinois rises to the top 10 for the first time since 2001.
Yeah.
Florida State also gets up to the top 10 as well, marking their highest ranking, well, in the last couple of years. Oklahoma, after their win, they're now 13, and Michigan falls all the way down to 23.
Yeah. That's
Eh,
that's harsh. That's a harsh fall. I won't lie to you.
We had the University of Southern Florida entering the poll at 18. Their
Yep.
first appearance is 2018
Mhm.
after their stunning loss to Florida. Some of our new entrants are Auburn and Missouri. They cracked the top 25 at 24 and 25 respectively. And the
Yeah.
schools that got knocked out. One school we didn't mention but did lose. Ugly one against Baylor and OT was SMU.
SMU. Yeah.
Arizona, we talked about getting they get upset from Mississippi State. And obviously Florida's very big loss to Southern Florida causes them to be not ranked anymore.
Yeah. I do think the Michigan, like down eight. Michigan is down eight. That's harsh. I don't believe Oklahoma. Again, Oklahoma is an SEC team, an undefeated SEC team. Obviously, they weren't in the top 13. Now they are because they're number 13. But like, and again, I was hard on Oklahoma at the beginning in the preview. You can listen to it back. I was hard on Oklahoma. I thought there was too much hype. They're obviously better than I thought they would be. I don't know that I would drop them eight. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That feels like a lot. Like, you've got Utah who went up. They beat Cal Poly, like I said, 63-9. Alabama needed to win, but they beat Louisiana Monroe. Granted, it was 73-0. But still, it's like you see some of these games, Tennessee beating East Tennessee State 72 to
And
17. If you let
then they
17,
jumped.
that's what I mean. Like you're up seven, you let East Tennessee State get 17 points on you. You know what I mean? Whereas you could see, like, and the committee follows my logic sometimes because South Carolina's down after winning against a nobody team in South Carolina State, but it was 38-10. So you're like, yeah, you didn't score enough and you let them score too much. Um, no, I do think that, like, personally, I think that 1-1 Michigan is a better team than 2-0 Indiana. I think people would disagree with that. But you can look at their games, Kennesaw State last week in the loss to Oklahoma. I think if the guy, meaning Underwood, from the first week shows up, they beat Indiana. Like, I would say 8 out of 10 times. I
Mhm.
think that Michigan team is better than Indiana. That's just an example. I'm not trying to pick on Indiana. They're a fine team as well. But to me, that is something that drop is crazy.
Well, politics, right? That's why
I
we hate them.
guess.
Regardless, Orion, great work. Awesome stuff. We'll see you back here next week to recap week 3 of the college football season.
Yeah.
Also available today, we have week 1, an NFL recap of week 1. So we talk about all the games right there. We got a tweet cap for you on Tuesday and then tweet cap for you on Friday. So 4 shows this week. Check out all our other exclusive content, all our podcast platforms and YouTube and all our social media channels. And we'll be seeing you very, very soon. Let's have a great week, everybody.
See ya.